I am in a loveless marriage with my husband. Where do I even start? My husband and I got married young, 19 and 21. We have a 2-year-old, and I feel like all of our problems started after having a baby. My husband and I built a successful business, we have a beautiful home, and an amazing child, but our relationship is. My husband is obsessed with working. We work together and from home, and most days he doesn't stop until like 7 p.m. Which has been a huge problem, because we barely spend quality time together as a family. I've tried to explain this to my husband that he doesn't need to work this late every single day, and I try to start the conversations calmly, but it always ends up being a huge fight. I also make dinner, clean up, spend time with our toddler, and put him to bed after work. It's getting exhausting. I will ask him to take out the garbage, or at least wash the dishes. When he does it, he acts like it's such a chore. Whenever someone else needs his help, he's all over it, but the second I need help with something, he acts like the world is going to end. He also never takes work off for anything. Holidays, birthdays, or when I ask him I want to go do something as a family. It's not important enough for him. Even when we are alone, all he does is talk about work. We literally have nothing to talk about anymore. It's also Christmas time, and I have one present under the tree for me, and I have like 10 for him. And it's not about the presents. It's the fact that he doesn't even care enough to know what I like to get me something. I go all out and no one does that for me. It really hurts, sad face. He barely ever calls me pretty or says he loves me. I ask him why, and his response is, "We're married, you should already know that stuff." I don't know what to do to save our marriage, honestly. I love him, I really do, he was never like this before. I'm in loveless marriage and my husband literally loves work more than me. Now for the top comments. I don't have the exact details of the exercise, but the gist of it is: have your husband list out his top 10 priorities in life. What are the most important things to him? Wife, son, parents, friends, work, hobbies, etc. Then have him guess how much time he spends on each priority per week. Is it 1 hour? 2. What you're trying to get him to see is that he is spending way more time on things that aren't actually his priority in life. Make the light bulb click that maybe he needs to schedule a date night with you into his calendar so he actually spends time on his priority. Your relationship, his relationship with his son. Lots of people mindlessly say my family are the most important thing in my life without actually acting in that way to prove it. If he doesn't actually spend time nurturing those relationships, they are going to dissolve. If he doesn't think there's a problem though and refuses to change his ways, his day-to-day routine, then an ultimatum might be necessary. Only if you are able to follow through 100%. Empty threats are no good, you gotta be ready to take the kid and walk away if you issue the ultimatum. Good luck. I hope he changes his ways and makes you and your son an actual, acted upon priority. Next comment. This sounds like the home life of my boss. To paint you a picture of how it looks like from the employees. I see on his phone wallpaper that he has a wife and kid. But he only mentions the kid, and even then maybe once every 6 months. He's in no rush to leave work, he constantly volunteers when it isn't necessary, and will often join tasks that only needs one hand. He enjoys the company of his employees more than his family. And even encourages his employees to talk to him when he's at home. It's obvious he is only married to his wife for a very selfish reason, and that's so she'll assume all his major life tasks. In this arrangement, all he has to do is dedicate his energy towards work and everything else will be handled. His actions feel loveless because there is no love. He only sees you as a glorified maid who'll takes care of the house, the kid, the holidays in return for less than the bare minimum. I'm telling you this because the other comments are bringing up couples therapy, and I just want to dispel the myth that it does miracles. The things I mentioned are fundamental to him, you literally can't change that. The only thing you can do is learn from this experience and leave. Leave him to worry about his work, you have better things to do. Next comment. So many of the guys at my work are like this. Our company does these employee well-being surveys and they always score really badly on work-life balance. So our boss is constantly telling us to make sure our priorities are in order, that unless something is completely business critical, there is no expectation to go beyond work hours. He also tells us the reason he works late in the evening is because he spends every afternoon with his son, and we have no expectation to answer his emails that are sent late, etc. But still, there are several guys on my team who all have kids or pregnant wives who are in work before me and always stay way after I leave. I want to ask them if they hate their home life, or if they don't have any hobbies. I can't understand how it can be difficult to switch off from our mind-numbing job. Next comment. Have you thought about couples counseling or something of that sort? They also have these guided books with prompts to build intimacy backup that you can do without a therapist. Seems like he's forgetting that marriage is still work, and that work can be a positive thing if you make it. I would try to sit him down and have a neutral convo, make sure he knows you're trying to be neutral about how you're feeling. Use phrases like "it upsets me when" or "I feel when" instead of accusing or letting your emotions guide the convo. Sometimes it helps to write it out first and write out what your goal is for the convo. Sometimes when I'm upset and trying to communicate that, I forget what I expect out of it, and don't accept the apology or efforts to make it better. I know it feels like you versus him right now, but if you do have the convo, try to remember and remind him that it's you two versus the problem instead. These things can be mended if both partners are willing to see each other's feelings. Compromise is the key. ETA, my partner can get frustrated with direct emotional convos too. Sometimes I will set a timer to make sure he knows it's not going to go on forever and feel trapped, and I know that I have a set amount of time to explain my feelings. I am a talker. Next comment. You need to bluntly inform him that his patterns of behavior have you feeling emotionally checked out of this marriage, and that unless he changes, you will get a divorce. Make it clear that you have no intention of staying in a miserable marriage. You are young. You want passion and companionship, not to be a glorified maid for an absent, dismissive husband who takes you for granted. Stop trying to fix it for him. You tell him that it's up to him to step up to the plate and facilitate his own growth, or you're out. You only have one life. He promised to be your man and he's failing you. Next comment. Stop asking. Tell him. You will not live like a single mother in your relationship any longer. Sit him down and tell him that this situation is now dire to the marriage. Tell him exactly what you need and exactly what you expect. If he is responsible for A, B, and C during the week, stop asking him and stop doing it for him. Tell him if he can't figure out how to be an involved father and partner, then the marriage will not work. Do not let him call your bluff. Do not give in. Make it clear to him that just because he loves you, it does not mean you feel loved. If he doesn't make an effort, then maybe take steps towards a trial separation. Understand that it's nothing you've done wrong, and nothing you personally can fix. It takes two to make a relationship work. He can't just give up putting effort in and expect you to pick up all the slack. Having a literal baby did not change his priorities, and that speaks volumes as to who he is. You've done everything you can. It's time for him to realize on his own that this will not work. There is consequences to his lack of effort, and that he needs to make changes. That is something you can't make him do, it's entirely up to him. Next comment. How serious of a come-to-Jesus conversation have you had with him about it? I'd write things out for yourself and be very serious with him that you feel unloved due to him prioritizing work and not connecting with you as a human being, and that you are unhappy and exhausted, and it will cost the marriage if things don't change. It's important that your partner really understand what is at stake here. It's also best if you can go into that conversation with a solid idea of what is most important to you. It sounds like you'd be happy without presence, but not being able to take a day off for your family to do something together, or have a non-work conversation is really bothering you, for example. Being as specific as possible about what you need and why will give him the best chance at changing if he really wants to. It will also be more obvious to you if he's blowing you off, no misunderstanding the assignment or changing goalposts, and you can follow through with whatever consequence you've decided on. That said, I also got married young, and people change a lot more than I thought they did when I was 19. Sometimes people grow into incompatibilities that can't be worked out, and it sucks. Next comment. I was that guy. My wife and I were married for about 10 years, and I just started giving up. I also gave up for the sole reason I thought my wife was giving up on me, and it appeared she wasn't emotional or physically attracted to me anymore. We never talked about it. So this led to my wife basically leaving me for another guy, because this guy had something I didn't, and it was that ability to emotionally connect, whereas I did not know how to do that anymore with my wife. We also have a son together, and I came to the realization that I was the one who needed help because I just assumed that since we were together for so long we were as happy as could be in a marriage so long. Where we saved it was I started caring about her hobbies and interest, started helping a lot more around the house and started taking more time off for our son, and couldn't be happier. This isn't me telling you to leave your husband, just speaking out of my perspective where I thought my wife was no longer interested in me, so just be sure to somehow communicate that, because I was blind. Next comment. We both work full-time, and I do my assigned role. If we had roles as you suggested, we don't have roles though, we just do what needs to be done and not complain about it. I just said I helped more with other tasks, where I blindly just let her do them, not realizing I could do more of what she was doing cause maybe that task was repetitive for her. My mental state was at an all-time low, so just overall didn't care about her emotions and or the desire to do anything after a 14-hour day at work. My son is also special needs, so that's what I meant by helping more, not specific roles around the house, just tasks and chores in general, so I'm sorry if you read it as me assigning gender-specific roles. I'm only speaking out of my experience and just how my mental health was, and that affected my ability to give a damn about anything including my son, my wife and a decade of marriage. I know everyone's personal perspective is different, and I was only sharing my similar experiences to OP's situation. Moral of the story: don't let your mental health decline so badly to not give a damn about anything including your will to live another day. Don't be selfish and communicate clearly with your partner. Next comment. This is gonna sound weird, but the reason why your business is successful, and you have a house, and can afford presents, and support the kid, is in part because he works as much as he does. He knows that. What he most likely doesn't know though, is that while he is succeeding at entrepreneurial success, he is failing miserably at spousal success, parental success, and other life successes. This scenario is much more common than you'd think. 1. Because business success is super easy to measure, money success. 2. Whereas spousal success, parental success is measured in anniversaries, moments, and memories. Hard to measure and can be a time sink unless you're measuring that value appropriately. Counseling is one way. What this guy needs is to find an entrepreneurial mentor. Someone that knows more about achieving balance with the business. This could be someone that has achieved business success, but lost theurgy spouses due to overworking and learned their lesson. Or someone that got it right the first time, and is just a well-balanced businessman. You should check out some books written by authors that teach on work-life balance. You might stumble onto someone else's story that resonates with your situation. Share story with your husband. Whip out the PowerPoint if you have to and tell your husband about this other person that lost their family's loved ones due to overworking. And be like, this is gonna be us if you don't fix your balance. At least then he's got someone to reach out to for research, cause he's gonna ask, how do I fix my balance? How did this guy do it? Authors are usually great resources for stories and, if they're good, guidance. Next comment. It unfortunately sounds like you married someone with an avoidant attachment style. No matter how loving you are to him, he's uncomfortable with intimacy and moves away from it, all while denying he's doing it and that he needs to do better. Attached by Amir Levine is a good source on how to cope with avoidant partners. But honestly, if he's not willing to change his attachment patterns, you should really gear up to leave this relationship. Do you really want to spend the rest of your life with him? Especially since he'll model this kind of dysfunctional attachment for your children? Whatever you decide to do, make sure you have the means to leave this man and make sure you don't have any more children with him. I would honestly stop emotionally investing in him, as well stop seeing him as your partner and see him more as some schmuck you likely sweet-talked you into marriage without doing any of the hard work of being a good husband. The less you invest in him emotionally, the easier it will be for you. Honestly, this marriage is probably going to end up in divorce, and no sane person would freaking blame you for it. I divorced a man just like this when I was 28, and the last thing you need to do is invest more into this relationship with a guy who doesn't have the emotional capability, or desire to develop the capability, of being an even halfway decent romantic partner.